Hello. So today we're going to solve for the slope of a line. And whenever we're looking for the slope of a line, we know that we have to go back to these equations of little m is equal to the change in the y values divided by the change in x values. So a little helpful hint over here is that we know we have two order pairs. In order to find a change, you have to find at least two order pairs. And I'm going to call this first order pair my x1, y1. And then I'm going to have, let's change that. That's supposed to look like an and, but it didn't. So let's just write and. Another order pair, and I'm going to call it my x2, y2. And these are subscripts. They're not squares or anything. They're actually at the bottom of the x and y value to let you know that it's group 1 versus group 2. Alright, so let's go back to this question here. In order to find the slope of the line, I need to know what the slope is. And sometimes we know it, sometimes we don't. And I know that my slope-intercept form, so in order to graph a line, we know that it's written as y equals mx plus b. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about this equation before we get started. The little m is my slope. This b is my y-intercepts. It's where it crosses the y-axis. And then we're going to have y is equal to mx plus b. So let's solve this here. So we go back to this application problem, and we have northeast and Mr. Northeast and Mr. Southwest line in Coordinate County, and our good friends. So Mr. Northeast, let's read this. Sorry, I zoomed in. Lives at. Now let me zoom out just a little bit. No, it's not gonna let me. Anyways, lives at 20 east, 28 north. So here's my order pair. So I'm going to automatically call this my order pair of x subscript 1, comma, my y subscript 1. So I'm going to let this be my first order pair. And then it says while Mr. Southwest lives 10 west, 14 south. So here is my order pair, and I'm going to call it my subscript 2. So now I have two order pairs, and that's all I need. I need two order pairs in order to graph a line. So first things first, we need to solve for the slope of this line. Now don't get me wrong, you can actually plot these on a graph and count up or down to determine the slope. You could do that, but this is math class, and I want you to be able to show how you got it mathematically. So let's solve for it. Let's scroll down just a little bit. So I'm going to say, I'm going to take this one and I'm going to solve right here. So this is going to equal, again, we're going to have a change in y divided by change in x. Okay, my change in y is going to be y2 first. So y2 is negative 14. And then my y1 is a positive 28. Now let's do the x values. My x2 is negative 10. And my x1 is 20. So now we need to combine the numerator and then combine the denominator, and then we'll have our slope. So we have, let's see, negative 14 minus 28. So they're both negatives. It's like saying you're in the whole $14 and you spend 28, so you're going to actually add them together. And that's going to give me a negative 42. So next we're going to go to the denominator, and it says we have a negative 10 minus 20, so that gives me a negative 30. Now, negative divided by negative becomes a positive, so that means I have a positive slope, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that here in a minute. And now I see I got 42 over 30, and I want to reduce it if possible. And I noticed that it does reduce, and it reduces by 6. 6 goes into 42 7 times. 6 goes into 35 times. So here is my slope. We're going to leave it in fraction form. You don't want to put it in decimal. Always leave it in fraction. And why? The top number is my y. My bottom number is my x. So I want to make some side notes before we come over here and solve this line, just to give you a little information about a slope. If the slope is positive, so in this case it is positive, then it, let me write a positive sign. If it's positive, then the line increases left to right. Okay? And that's on a graph. If the slope is negative, well, it falls left to right. Okay? And what do I mean by that? So if I was to put it on the, let me draw a little graph. And what this is saying is that if it increases left to right, well, these are all negative values, right? And it's going towards the positive, so as long as it increases from left to right, then it's a positive. Now let's do the negative. Well, if it's decreasing left to right, then it's negative. So let me just change that color there. Alright. Two more things, but one more set of notes to tell you. If my slope has 0 for the y, the change in y, and my x is some number, then my answer is 0, and it's a horizontal line. Okay? If my slope has some number for y values and a 0 for my x, then we have a vertical line. And one thing to look at as a vertical line is can we hang a picture on the wall without any support? The answer is no. So anytime the denominator has a 0 in there, then it's a vertical line, and it's undefined. It's an undefined slope. So I want to finish up solving for this line here. Undefined. Okay, so let's come up here. We know it's a positive slope, so it increases left to right. And now, what I'm going to do is I know what my m is now. So I need to go ahead and say I want to solve for b in order to give you it, give you the slope of the line. So I know what everything is here except for b. So I'm going to come over here. This is going to be my final answer here in a minute. I know what m is. And in order to give you the final answer, we need to figure out what is the y-intercept. So I'm going to plug in. And it doesn't matter which order pair you pick, but you pick one of them. And I'm going to pick the first one. So the first order pair says that y is 28. Oops, that's terrible writing. Give me a second, guys. Let's fix this up a little bit where you can read it. So my y is 28. And you could use the other order pair. As long as you do your math right, we get the same line. My slope is 7/5. And then my x is 20. So now, let's go ahead and clean this up and finish. Well, I noticed that 20 is over 1, and if I reduce, 5 goes into itself once and goes into 24 times. And what does that leave me with? 7 times 4 is 28. So let's bring everything else down. Alright, so let's solve for B. Well, in order to solve for B, I need this side, this 28 on this side, to go to 0. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract it. And when I subtract it from this side, I got to subtract it from the other side. And what happens? Oh my, it becomes 0. So B is equal to 0. Well, you could put it here, plus 0, but we don't need it. So my line is y equals 7/5 x. And it's going to cross at where y is 0. So that is solving this application problem and looking for the slope, the slope of the line. And it gives you a little bit more information about the slope. Thank you.